And the rest of my questions are light. At the reunion, colorism was a topic that was touched on, but I feel like tensions were so high and everyone was just defensive and kind of just teaming up with, you know, their friends. So it didn't become a productive conversation. It was kind of just yelling into a void.
Yeah.
Now that you're removed from the show and also a few months down the lane, do you think having this conversation you would act differently than you did at the reunion? And do you think that colorism is a topic on the show, is an issue on the show?
Colorism is definitely an issue. This is why I had the response I had, and obviously they don't show everything that you say. They only show little parts. What I was trying to come across and get across was that colorism definitely exists. There are some black women, there are some black men who are walking around here just as nice as they want to be, and because their skin is darker, they just assume, oh, you must be violent, or you must be this way or that way or the other. That definitely exists. But in that instance, that was not the case.
Right.
Wendy's actions in that moment were aggressive. It had nothing to do with her skin tone or complexion. And Ashley calling it aggressive was not her distributing any type of colorism. She was just speaking on the action. To the point where even when Andy asked Wendy to basically give another word for it that you would rather it be used, and she had nothing with all those degrees, she still couldn't come up with one word. So that was that. But colorism absolutely exists. It definitely exists amongst that cast, which I was formerly on. And I wouldn't say that it's so much the women who are creating the colorism issues. It was more like the people who want to promote what they want to promote based on whatever colors they think are most similar to theirs.
Right.
So there is an issue and it should be addressed, but let's address it when it's actually valid.
Mm-hmm.
And let's come correct, because what I feel as though that conversation did, it discredited a lot of people who actually deal with colorism or people calling them out because of their skin tone and saying that they're being aggressive. It discredited those who actually struggle with that, and it's a real issue. So to me, it just did a disservice to the black community when they're sitting back trying to fight these battles, and then you got somebody who just so happens to be brown skinned acting aggressively. It's like,
yeah,
you know, what can you say?
Yeah.
I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Now that you hear the whole story.
No, I absolutely get it. And I agree that Wendy kind of chose the wrong time to make it an issue.
Right. Don't make it an issue to excuse your actions. That's what I didn't like about it. It was like, now you're trying to bring this to the show when that wasn't the actual issue. Now, if it actually happened that way, then of course call it out. But that's what I didn't like. Don't make it convenient for you, you know? Yeah.
I did want to piggyback on that. Monique, do you think that, I guess, were there double standards when the word was used amongst everybody? Because, in certain situations, I do think I've used that they would use it in a certain situation. But when it came to you and other classmates, it became this big uproar. Oh, don't use that word. It's only, things like that. But I do know I've used the show a couple of times, and they've used the word themselves when trying to express how they felt about somebody else's behavior. So do you feel like it was a double standard just because it was you?
Yeah, there's always double standards when it came to me for whatever reason. But I remember when...
Sorry. Thank you, Marcella, for the super chat.
Hey, Marcella, what's up, boo? Thank you, babe. I definitely think that everything in my direction, because I was involved in a physical altercation, it became very negative. Like, it was like a moment. Now I'm being defined as if that's who I am all the time, when I'm like one of the most bubbliest people on the show who loves to have fun. So I had a moment where it was a terrible judgment. Things got out of hand. And then it went from that moment to basically labeling me as violent or, ghetto or a hood rat or, like none of these women have ever even asked me how I grew up. Like they've never asked the question. They just made the assumption. And then they wanted to call me hood. And I was like, okay, if you want to call me hood, whatever. But I'm not a hood rat. Don't call me a hood rat. Like, that's just disrespectful. If you say somebody's from the hood, all right, whatever. Which I'm not, but okay. I say that because when I was very young, I grew up in the projects. But by the time I was like in first and second grade, I was living in the suburbs. And I went from living in the suburbs to then living in a more diverse middle-class community. So, you know, but either way, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter when we grow up. It's about how we are as individuals now that we're grown. Are we still acting like we're two? Or are we acting our age?
I definitely agree.
Yes.
I think there was a little bit of hypocrisy going on here because Teresa from New York has doggone near knocked Andy over. You know what I'm saying? And we've seen, you know, people on other shows get into altercations and they're celebrated for it. So it really just seems kind of odd to me that at this point in time that they've just chosen to do this to you as a Black woman. That's just odd to me.
Yeah, I still don't understand it. I still don't get it. That whole disclaimer that was made right before I could have fell out my seat. I rolled my eyes so hard. I was like, really? And then it was funny too because when my song was brought up, nobody actually took the time to actually listen to my song. They just heard the title and they were like, oh my God, you're speaking about violence and da-da-da. I'm like, that's not even what my song's about. And they wouldn't air my song on the show, on the reunion, because they said that they don't condone violence, but they made money off of an act of violence for 19 whole weeks. They promoted it in every single commercial. So I guess they're okay with promoting violence when it's coming in their pocket. But don't let us look like we're promoting violence when we're the ones that might have been involved in it. We're not able to do the same. Like, it was just, the double standard was just amazing from the top all the way down.
And on top of that, oh, go ahead, Richie.
Yeah, you really didn't need anybody to play the song because you had somebody singing the lyrics verbatim.
And she knew all the lyrics too.
Knew every word. But it was funny because, all right, I will clarify this part. When she was reading the lyrics so terribly, she got to the part where it said, Jeff on the beat, sipping so I'm litty. She's like, Jeff on the beat. So when they heard beat, they're thinking that I'm talking about the fight. I'm like, no, I'm talking about Jeff, my pickup artist. So it was just like, nobody took the time to do their due diligence. They just wanted to make it seem like, you know, like, oh, you did this whole thing and it was all about this, that, and the other. And it's like, you know, y'all ain't that important.
Yeah, and what stuck out to me too, Monique, he made it a point to ask you if you were a recording artist now, where there's two other women in that room that he didn't ask that to, not to mention women from other cities that he's never asked that to. So I just don't know why he picked that to be the time he asked that.
But he knew the answer to that question because he had you rap on the first reunion. Your first reunion, that made no sense.
And celebrated it.
Yes.
Yes.
And asked 1,000 times, can we hear the rap?
Exactly.
Remember, because we were arguing, me and Robyn, I think, were arguing, and he just wanted to hear the rap. So, and the thing is, I've been rapping since I was in high school. I've actually had record deals presented to me. I've sat in the office of Universal, Capitol Records. Like, I've been at Def Jam. I've actually been. So, if anybody out of any housewife or recording artist outside of Candy, it's me.
You know, what I think needed to be addressed was, yeah, you got into a physical altercation, but that's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is personal space. There's always the opportunity for it to become physical. There were plenty of instances on that particular show, you know, where Robyn went in Ashley's face in her restaurant. Ashley said, get your hand on my face. Robyn continued to do that. That could have been an instance where it became physical, because the warning was given, yet the action still kept going. And there's been verbal threats from everybody on the cast about physical, you know, violence. Yeah. So I just feel like what needed to be addressed was not what happened, but what can we do to prevent this from happening? Like, just personal space, boundaries, and leave it at that. Not you. I mean, you can't write a check that you can't cash. Like, that's basically what it is. And I just think since it didn't happen to them, it was just a mess. But the whole point was to be, personal space and boundaries.
Yeah, before I answer that, I want to answer this question by Coco Loco. Has Andy reached out to you at all after the reunion? We did talk right after the reunion, but we have not talked since it aired, nor have we talked since I quit. Like, not at all. Like, complete
But he did acknowledge that you quit the show because he said it on his show that you had quit the show.
Oh, really?
So he knows you quit.
He said a lot.
Remember I asked you, has he reached out? And you're like, no, he hasn't reached out. He knows it happened. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what to say about that, but I will say back to the question you were asking, Jay, what can be done to prevent, that whole just like boundaries and everything else? Well, I will say the first thing is people need to understand that just because there's cameras around doesn't mean that, like, we're not on scripted TV. It's reality TV. I'm not sitting here reading some script and we're playing roles. So don't be acting for cameras. Like, be who you are. That's what I am who I am all the time. Whether you like it or not, at least I can say that's who I am. So don't start popping off in front of people's faces that you would not pop off at if you were out at some random bar. So don't do things as if the cameras are going to protect you when you're literally invading somebody's personal space or doing all of that. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that, especially when that was something that I made clear, like, when I met you. Like, I don't like the hands in my face. Keep talking with your hands. So, just remember that you have to show respect to people whether or not a camera's around.
I definitely agree. Thank you, Miss Nice Nasty.
Thank you. Miss Nice Nasty, thank you so much for the super chat. Queen, adjust your crown. 99.99 of us viewers wanted to put the pause on Candiace.
Since we are talking about boundaries, I know, Richie, you had a great question about boundaries. So if you'd like to go ahead and lead on with that.
Yeah, so my question, I think, for all of us, because I know a lot of us, do commentary on a lot of the shows, and, we have our opinions about them and we voice them on social media. So my question was, were there any boundaries that you might have learned about for yourself or that you had to set for yourself during this whole course of the Real Housewives of Potomac? And maybe not even just Potomac, but I guess looking at the Bravo landscape in general, when we think about Kelly Dodd, when we think about Erica Jane, and whatever your opinions are about each person is fine. But have you learned anything about your own boundaries? Like, for me, I don't respond anymore to any negative comment. That is my boundary that I had to set for myself. They can post it on my page. I'm fine with it. I will not respond to it.
Yeah. When it comes to just like the show in general, the 4 years that I was a part of the show, what I realized is that I take on too much. I had to start telling people no, especially around filming time, because I was becoming overwhelmed dealing with being a mom, being a wife, filming, and then still running businesses and then other obligations. It was becoming too much. So then I was getting like really irritable when I was even around the women, and then they're coming at me all crazy. So it's like your guard is just always up. One thing that I wish I had done, which we're really all supposed to do, is have therapy. Like doing reality TV, I recommend anyone that is doing reality TV to make sure that they have a therapist. Even if you're not dealing with anything, so you think right at that moment, having someone to air it all out, to talk about whatever's going on, whatever's happening in scene, because it's confidential. They won't leak or tell whatever you're telling. You need to get it out, because what you don't realize is even though you're filming a show, you're still holding that stuff in, and it's bothering you. It's eating at you, and you don't even realize it. So like right now, it's amazing because like I'm hearing that they're filming already, which is great for them. But the thought of filming right now, I'm like, I definitely made the right decision. I am so stress-free. My hair's starting to grow back. My skin's clearing up. Like, I'm sleeping good at night. I have time for my businesses and my family. I'm not racking my brain trying to figure out who's going to watch my kids so I can go film this scene. You know, like, I feel so stress-free. I feel like how I was before I started doing the darn show.
Thank you, M. Austin, for the super chat.
Yes, thank you. M. Austin, has Bravo released you from your contract yet? And if not, will you have to film? So finally, after 3 whole weeks of my email not being responded to, when we went live last week and I said, can y'all just release me? Can y'all just release me? They finally released me. So yes, as of last Thursday, I have been fully released from my contract, and I feel like I'm a stop, give us free. Like, free. Yeah. That's free. Like Dr. P said, free at last. Thank God Almighty. Free at last. No more chicken on me. I feel like I'm on a free sermon.
Riley, I did have a question for you. And this based off, because if people don't know, I ran the Monique and Portia fan page. And I was, I'm still really protective over Monique. Like, getting to know her outside of, just watching her on TV, like, I'm protecting her at all costs. Like, I love her. But I know for you guys have been friends for years and years and years. And I always ask this to people who are close to Monique outside of reality TV and things like that. How was it for you watching Monique go through what she went through on TV as her friend, knowing who she is? Like, how was that for you?
It's kind of hard because, I know she's very strong, we all know that she's very strong, and I know that personally, but, she's also human. So, anytime I hear anybody say anything, I have to, instead of clapping back or like going in on somebody, I have to think to myself, they don't know her. They're just watching and interpreting it the way that they're interpreting it. And for those of us who really know her, and I've known her for 18 years, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, these people just don't know her. But then watching her go through all of what she went through last season, it was just like, oh my God. And I was just like, oh my God, I hope she doesn't come back. I hope she doesn't come back. And I kept saying to her, like, ultimately it was her decision, but like, I just was like, I can't believe they're doing this to you. And I just kind of wanted to like shout from the rooftops, this is not true, all this stuff. But I've learned now through having friends on reality TV and having taken part in reality TV and having, been on things myself, that people are ultimately going to edit it the way they want for themselves, no matter what. And people who are watching are also going to come up with their own, and it could be, it's crazy. It could be something little that she's addressed before, but here comes somebody with this opinion that's completely bogus and completely like, were you watching the same show that I was watching? I just don't get it. I'm like, hello.
Because, I don't know if you know this, but like, I worked in TV production for years, daytime TV, not reality, but TV production nonetheless. And, when you spend so much time with, your cast and crew, like, you really develop strong relationships with people, there's people that I haven't been on a set with in 4 and 5 years, and I still consider them like best friends, So I was just wondering for you what that was like, going into the show and like what it was like developing those relationships throughout those 4 years, and who and if anyone will you keep in contact with as you kind of depart?
Yeah, so that I appreciate you asking that. You're about to get me crying right now, because that was the hardest part of me walking away. Like, and I even told my VP at Truly, who I love so much, and my VP at Bravo. We had a phone conversation 2 weeks after, I made the announcement, and I broke down. And I said, the hardest part of me walking away is feeling like I'm losing family. I said, because I talk to y'all all the time. And I know they're going to be busy. They're going on. The show's going to go on, So they're going to be busy. So there's going to be times where I might think about them and text them, and I won't get a response right away like I normally would, when I'm actually actively filming. So, I was just like, it sucks, because you have those relationships that you create. They know so much about you and your life, and you're talking to these people all the time. They're like family. So some of the producers know more about me than some of my family does, So I do still talk to, everybody loved James, the producer James, who
yes,
going back to fight again. James to the rescue. I talked to James. I literally talked to him the other day. I love him. He was a newbie at the same time I was a newbie. So
that's cool.
His first season on the show was my first season, and we were put together. And we've literally been friends ever since. Like, we've never lost contact. There was one year where he wasn't on our show, and I was devastated. But I still, whenever I was in LA, I would hook up with him. Whenever he was in this area, he would hook up with me. We never have lost contact, like, at all. So I still talk to James, and there's one other producer who he reached out to me, and we talked, and and then I have a few producers who I still talk to, and we just have those genuine outside friendships. So it's nice that you make lifelong friends, and I think the ladies picking sides and judging Monique. Gizelle and Robyn wanted a reason not to like Monique. I hated how they edited Chris during the reunion. All the above. True. I agree with every last one of it. Like, wait, where'd the other one go? Shoot. DMV, we ain't the ones on front. If I stuck, that's what I saw. Y'all know what that be like when you on 45 and you get stuck now. Bowie Boy the Good, has anyone apologized to you for the fake read? Not one person. Not one. And I think that was the biggest issue that I had, is that watching a reunion, but behind the scenes, nobody accepted accountability. Like, there was no accountability across the board. Like, you literally tried to destroy my family, paint a picture that everybody on social media knew wasn't true. As far as the live that me and Chris did, which was a response to Candiace's live where she spilled all the beans. So to show our live as if we're just out here just doing lives just to scream at people for no reason was complete BS. And then for there to be no accountability, I was just like, I'm done. Like, this is insane. And when my 7-year-old, who will be 8 on Sunday, his birthday's on Sunday, my 7-year-old said to me that he would not respect my decision if I went back to the show. Oh, you think I'm going back? My kids be more to me than anybody.
Wow.
When he said that, I said, what would you think if I did go back? And he said, well, I wouldn't respect your decision. My 7-year-old. So if my 7-year-old can come to that conclusion, then come on. Like, yeah.
Right. It's funny you say that, because I was going to ask you, obviously, you have 3 kids, 3 different age ranges. But when the time comes, because essentially the big issue was, the ladies bringing your child into a plot, a scheme, things like that. So when the time comes to have that conversation with your kids, whether it's tomorrow or years from now, how do you think that would go? Like, will you be completely, like, just as transparent as you can? Would you try to protect, their feelings? Like, how do you think that conversation will go?
Well, we've actually had conversations with my oldest too, because they're so nosy. They pretty much knew everything before we could even tell them. So my son, I think the thing that stood out to me the most, we were actually in Aruba. We went to Aruba in October because I had to get that good old golden tan before I had that yellow reunion dress that Riley slayed the heck out of. So, yeah. So, look, I said I'm going to start my, I didn't intentionally do it, but I ended up ending my career on Housewives the way I started it. Because when I started filming so many years ago, my very first all-cast scene, we were in Aruba and came back early so that we could film Katie Ross event, that all-cast Casino Royale. And then it's like, now I'm at the reunion, and it's just like full circle, I guess. The reunion happens, and, we had just got back from Aruba. So we have another chat. My son said while we were on vacation, he said, Mommy, I just don't understand. One day I might release this video, because it's like, my 7-year-old is so smart. Like, I swear he's an old man stuck in a little person's body.
Cute video.
But he is funny. He said that, yeah, Riley, you saw it. So.
Another super chat, sorry.
Another super chat. M. Austin. Oh, you spent all the money tonight. Thank you.
Yes.
Clients want to know, would you consider a Samuels show, and have you been offered your own show? That's not something that we've discussed lately, because I've been so busy with Mila Eve. I mean, I haven't even started marketing for that company, and the sales have been through the roof. I've not had a day since December 15th when we pre-launched, of no sales, like every single day. Y'all are amazing. So, but I've not been offered my own show, no. But you never know what the future holds. But yes, my son said to me, I don't understand why they won't just tell the truth on the show. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, why don't they just show the real you, mommy? Because you're a really nice person and you're so caring and you take care of us. Why don't they show that? Why are they acting like you're the wrong person when Miss Candiace is the one that got in your face? I said, wait. So we went through the whole scenario, and I was absolutely real with him. And I said, Christopher, you do realize that I touched her hair. I said, I shouldn't have touched her hair. And he said, yeah, mommy, but you did warn her to back about your face. I'm like, how does he know all this? And Riley saw the video. And I did him all these questions like, he's like, well, I heard you and Daddy talking, and, so he's been eavesdropping, and he knows a lot more than what I thought. And Milani knows the whole play-by-play. Like,
But what doesn't make any sense is the fact that if a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old can get it, how come these grown people can't get it? It doesn't make any sense. It's that simple,
I teach my kids, when they were in school, when they actually had school before COVID, I would tell them, if someone, they would come home, and my son is very big for his age. So he's bigger than all the other kids in his class. And they would team up and try to fight him and bully him because he's so big. So it might be 3 kids. So I would tell him, I'm like, Christopher, if somebody comes at you and they're trying to bully you, the first thing you need to do is tell the teacher. I said, if they do it again, you give them a warning. If they do it a third time, you have a right to defend yourself. And I said, and when you defend yourself, you better make sure it's to the point where they won't come at you again. So he comes home one day from school and he said, Mommy, the same boys was messing with me. And I said, what happened? He said, I went and told the teacher that was outside. I said, okay, did the teacher tell the kid to stop? And he said, yeah. So then he said, it happened again. They pushed me again and they tried to knock me down. And I said, then what did you do? He said, I gave him a warning. I said, if you push me down one more time, I'm going to push you down. Kid pushed him down again. I said, what'd you do? He said, I pushed him so hard, all of them left me alone. I was like, you have a right to defend yourself. So that's just how we run around here. So I don't know. Don't be coming after me, mom judging y'all.
Let's see. So
Sure, yeah. So I recently spoke to Leanne Locken, and she said that once you announced that you were leaving, that she had a conversation with you. Did you have a conversation with anyone else from other cities or from your own city? And then if you did, what did those conversations sound like?
Okay, yes. I talked to Leanne. I talked to Nene. I talked to Portia, Dr. Simone. Who else? I talked to Bronwyn. I talked to, there was so many people reaching out. Deandra reached out. I feel like there was more. I can't really think right now. But there was it was a huge outpouring of love from my own show, obviously Karen and Ashley, and that was it. And the conversations were very positive. Portia definitely was like, girl, you can do this. You don't have to leave. And I was like, Portia, I said, I'm not as strong as you, hon. I was like, you can do it. I'm like, but what I love about Portia is that she gets it. Like, she has been in this situation for a long time, and she has turned any negative that she's ever experienced, she's turned into a positive from everything. So I commend her for that. And I just told her, I was like, I'm not built for it. And also, her dynamic on her show to me is just a little different than on my show. I feel like a lot of the women on Atlanta, they're on an even playing field, so it's like they're not all just like scrapping, trying to get to the top, and they're not walking around fronting like they got more than what they have. And
sorry, 2 super chats coming through.
Yes, let me find it. Sorry. Okay. Jay, you had me hooked, instant fan, when you rapped during High Tea. Oh, thank you. I hope you release an album soon. Listen, if I get some time, I'm gonna actually release something better than an album. But I'm gonna keep that to myself for now. But we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it real soon. Thank you so much, Chanel G. Will you send a cease and desist to Bravo or HOP so they won't continue to talk ill about you and profit off your likeness? I'm definitely going to be looking into that, because what I don't want to see is season 6 and they using me the whole season as a storyline. So hopefully I'm sure they'll figure out something else to talk about.
Woo. Were you finished with your story before I cut you off?
I don't even remember what I was saying.
All the support you were getting from Portia and Atlanta.
I get a lot of support. It's been an outpouring of love across the board, so I'm grateful. I talked to Tamika Lee from Southern Charm, New Orleans. A lot of all my I'm very cordial, and I have a lot of friendships that I was able to develop, genuine friendships. From being on this platform, and all of those beautiful women have reached out and just showed their support. So I'm very grateful.
To Andy denying Gizelle's meltdown. And apparently that post was on some blog, because that's what popped up when I saw Monique's name. And I made a post just like, I made it. I'm on a blog. I should get paid. Like, just happy. And literally within like 25 minutes, I got logged out my account. And it said my account was disabled.
I have a theory.
It literally happened like as soon as I posted, and the post got attention, and it went poof.
And the last post that you posted was?
What was it? About Andy lying?
Yeah. Like, it was the whole, like, Gizelle didn't blow up. And then you swipe it, and you see her admitting about the blow up.
Right.
Everybody knows it happened. It was literally the talk. It was getting leaked as we were filming it, because it was that intense. It was like the Wicked Witch melted. She couldn't do no more. It was like,
And I only posted it because I'm a person who likes facts, and I'm like, if I know that the facts are out there, I'm just gonna, let everybody see it. And I mean, I don't know why they would get mad at stuff that was already put out into the universe. But long story short, I got contacted, and they said because I was impersonating somebody I wasn't. Even though the page was labeled as a fan page, etc., I don't believe that's the reason. But that's what it is. So I don't know if it's...
When I go to reunion, especially this reunion, I was on a mission. So I was emotionally withdrawn. I knew what I needed to do. I set out on a mission with my binder, and I got the job done. And everything that was coming at me, honestly, I'm just now starting to really, take it all in, how intense it was. Because when you're on these shows, there has to be a certain level of just like being withdrawn, so that you can just like handle what you got to handle, and then you walk away, and you have to emotionally remove yourself from it, because otherwise you'll stress yourself out. So now sitting back and just kind of looking at everything and how everything has transpired, now it's like, wow, I really did endure a lot. Like, that was a heavy reunion, and a lot of stuff that y'all didn't even see. It was even heavier. There was a lot of questions being thrown my way, and honestly, a lot of it, I felt as though as heavy as it was on me, there were so many other people who should have gotten heat as well, and it was very unequal, So I felt like I was just confused. Like, why am I getting all of this heat and pressure? Like, where is this coming from? I've been nothing but professional. I show up to scenes on time. Whenever we have to film, I'm on time. Rarely am I late, and if I am, it's because of my kids or something like that. But I'm very cordial with everybody. I try to treat everyone nice when they come into my home. I'm like, hey, there's the coffee maker. Here's some water, whatever you need. I like you to feel welcome. I'm very professional. I try to play by the rules. And I just couldn't understand. I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, what did I do to get on somebody's bad side to the point where it seems like everybody is like on attack mode, trying to tear me down? Like, it's just very interesting. So when it comes to reunion and how everything played out, like I said before, Andy was definitely doing his job, but at the same time, his job is also to have that same energy for everybody else, So is anybody going to drill Robyn about why Juan wasn't at the reunion? Like, why wasn't that asked? It's like, she can give that response, and everybody's just like, oh, he had basketball practice. Oh, that's why he's not here. Oh, okay, and then they move on. Let me have showed up without Chris. That would have turned into a whole situation. I would have been drilled, and they would have edited me to make me look like me and Chris had issues, and that's why he didn't come. And Juan is actually like the head coach of the team, so you ain't miss a game. You missing practice. You could have assigned somebody else to show up in your place. My husband was a head coach of a football team before, so I know how that works. So it's like, why wasn't she drilled? Why wasn't he really there? Oh, Pastor Holy Lord, he's at a lecture, and they bought that. That's what y'all doing? Why we ain't getting no drilling in that direction? A lecture? So he was doing a lecture in pandemic. It's a pandemic and you're doing a lecture. Aren't those done virtually? So you couldn't bring your laptop and do your lecture over the computer so that you could be here behind a woman that you paying, or she paying you to be here? You couldn't at least keep up with the fraudulence. You just let her hang. You know, she didn't pay a bodyguard to sit behind her. Every man she got to have on stage with her got to be paid. Like, it was just like, why wasn't all these questions? Why wasn't other, like, people being held with some speed as well, you know?
I did want to cut you off real quick. We have another super chat.
To do D Stewie super chat. Oh, wait, I didn't? I'm sorry. Were you surprised they went hard on you and not on Wendy for stealing names from a charitable organization? Exactly my point. And that was brought up during the season. They talked about that at the winery right before the fight happened. So why aren't we talking about somebody supposedly stealing contacts and stealing venues? You know, why wasn't that brought up? So there's so much more that could have been brought up, but they want to sit here and say, oh, well, that didn't happen on the show, but you talk about stuff that didn't happen on the show because it involved me and my family, and you wanted to make my husband, who has a squeaky clean record and image, look like he's some person that just likes to like go off on women or some crap, when he had a valid reason. If he did want to go off on a woman, he did have a valid reason. You coming after an innocent child. A grown woman can stand up to my big husband, but an innocent child, they can't stand up to that grown woman. He's a baby. You know, so, man, they can miss me with that BS. That's why I'm like this.
Two more super chats that